This is the new Mercedes GLB, and it's a little bit like the British government's response to the coronavirus pandemic in the way that it's all rather confusing. You see, it sits below the GLC in the Mercedes range, but it's arguably a bigger, more practical car for families. So odd. I'm going to explain why though in this video and find out if it's any good. But before we do any of that, please guys, stay alert, control the virus, save lives. What does that even mean? Let's start off this video by talking about the price. So the new GLB starts from £34,500, which interestingly is about £1,500 more than the GLA, which is quite a bit smaller. Yet it's still £6,000 less than the GLC, which really isn't any more practical. So it seems like good value, and it's especially good value when you look at this, right? Through carwow, you can save an average of £4,000 off a GLB. Now, if you want to see how much you can save on one of these cars, or any car for that matter, click on the pop-out banner up there to go to carwow. Or if you're not thinking about buying a new car, but you know someone who is, just get them to Google carwow, because when they go to our site, me and my team will be there to help them decide which car to buy and make sure they get it for a fair price. Right then, let's talk about this car's design. Unlike the GLA, which is sort of like a hatchback but on stilts, this looks like a proper SUV. I mean, it's actually taller than the GLC, which is kind of mad, and the front end is very, very aggressive looking. Now, it does look slightly differently depending on if you have the sport model or this AMG line, because then you get this grille which is slightly different and a bit more shiny trim down there. There's also the GLB 35 AMG version, which looks even sportier. It's got plenty of presence and looks fairly mean with these large, I was going to say air intakes, but they're not, are they? It's a Mercedes, so they're fake. And they're fake over here as well. Yes, Mercedes like a bit of lies. From the side, this car really does look like a proper SUV, doesn't it? It's helped by the fact that it's got these roof bars as well, which just make it even taller. Now, as standard, the range kicks off with 18-inch alloy wheels. These are the 19 inches, which you get on the AMG line version, though the AMG 35 model gets 20-inch alloy wheels. One thing that I do notice when I look at this car, especially this portion of it here, kind of reminds me of the new London Taxi. At least the door opens that way rather than that way, otherwise it would be just like the London Taxi. Though I suppose I could say it also looks like a Rolls-Royce Cullinan. I think Mercedes would probably prefer that comparison. For me, the best angle of this car is the rear end. I love the way it just looks kind of flat, bluff and like sporty and aggressive. They put a roof spoiler on it, and get this, the AMG line has a diffuser like a racing car. That diffuses nothing. Little twiglet of truth proves that these exhaust pipes aren't real exhaust pipes. The actual exhaust is underneath. What a load of nonsense, but it does look good. There is one thing though, while I like these shiny bits of chrome, you have to watch it, because if the sun's in a certain position, you look down, it's just going to reflect and burn out your retinas. It's a real mean looking SUV from the back, and to think it's actually one of Mercedes' smallest SUVs. Let's talk about the engine choices. First things first though, look, oh yes, a gas strut to hold up the bonnet. Mercedes poshness. Engine range, dead simple. There's two petrols. The entry level petrol is a 1.3 litre, which sounds like kind of not enough literage, does it, for this car? But it does have 163 horsepower because it's got a turbocharger. You might want to upgrade to the GLB 35 because that's the high performance one with a 2 litre petrol engine that pumps out 306 horsepower. Though really, the best bet's going to be the diesels. You can have a 200D, which has a 2 litre diesel with 150 horsepower, or this one, which is the 220D, which is a 2 litre diesel yet again, but with 190 horsepower. All versions get an automatic gearbox, and depending on which engine you go for, it'll either be front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Mercedes says this GLB 220D with 4-wheel drive should be able to do 0 to 60 in 7.6 seconds, but will it? Well, I'm going to find out using my specialist timing gear here. I'm going to launch it. It is rather wet, lots of standing water, no launch control, but I'm going to hold up the brake, launch it and see what happens. Let's do it. Oh, easy does it. And off we go. Ooh, quite punchy. Once it's going, doesn't seem to care about the standing water, just getting on with it. Got time. 7.51 seconds, despite no launch control, and despite the fact I was launching through puddles. It's quite good. Doesn't actually feel that quick, it just gets on with the business. Impressive. The interior of this GLB follows on from the interior of the A-Class and the GLA, but with a slight twist. Things that are the same, the general layout of the I just did that by accident. The general layout of the dash and the infotainment screens, which look great when you have the larger displays, but can look a little bit gash when you have the entry-level smaller displays. I do like the design of this if you have the bigger displays. It looks a bit different, a bit more chunky than the GLA. There's this extra panel here, this silver trim here and here, which does look kind of nice. Also, the shapes in the door are slightly different as well, just a bit more kind of upright and SUV-like. Quality-wise, softy, comfy, but then scratchy, which is fine. That feels solid though. This bit, like on the A-Class and the GLA, all wobbly and flimsy. So it's a bit kind of hit and miss in places, but overall the quality is good and the design is really cool. As with the A-Class, I love the turbine style air vents, really nice. The big thing about this car though is the driving positions. Loads of headroom here in the front, which means you can jack up the seat quite a way. And so you're sitting up really, really high. It's great view ahead. Now, if you want to, you can adjust the steering wheel as well to get yourself nice and comfy. And there's enough adjustment in that you are going to be fine, no matter whether you're big or small in this car, because you can lower the seat all the way down if you're very, very tall. And you're still sitting up pretty high as well. You can extend the lower seat base as well for a bit of under thigh support. It is an easy car to get comfy in, really is. And like I said, it feels like an SUV. For me, the biggest selling point of the GLB is just how good it is for carrying passengers. I mean, look how much room I have here. Loads of knee room, loads of foot space. I can stretch out because the chair in front is raised up. It's brilliant. And I can slide the seats and they do recline as well, which is also good. Now, there is a bit of a hump in the floor here, but it's not particularly big, so if you do need to carry 3 at once, it's perfectly doable. Plenty of foot space for everybody. This seat is a little bit on the firm side, but it's not uncomfortable, and the car's body is quite wide, so you can fit 3 adults across the back. Another thing I like is this look. You've got a huge rear window, and the window ledge is low, so kids will be able to get a decent view out. Plus, will it? Come on. Will it? Will ya? Come on. Will it? Yes. The window goes all the way down, which means that your big Labrador can stick its head out and drive along, you know, like they're trying to bite the air. One thing that is really good about this car in this middle row is this, look. There is loads, absolutely loads of headroom, so even if you're dead tall, you're going to be fine. But then there's this element. If I pull this down like that, you will see we have a 3rd row of seats. I'm going to put this chair in a position that I'd be happy with, and then we'll see if I can fit behind this seating position. So let's give it a go. Here we are. Just pop this up. Come on. There we go. Right, it's snug. I have just about got enough knee room. Headroom is the issue though. There's this part of the roof which slopes down, which means my head is touching it. If I was to go over a bump, bang, I'll probably break my neck. This isn't really designed for adults. I mean, I could suffer it for a short journey. It's more for kids, and kids will be fine. You don't sit that low to the floor. I mean, it's not the comfiest seat. There's still a little bit of space between the floor and the seat base, so it's not terrible. And you've got a window to look, peer out of, oh, hello, trapped. Do I think it's quite as practical in the very back as Land Rover Discovery Sport? Probably not, but click on the pop-out banner up there to watch my full in-depth video review of that car to find out. There is one thing that is a bit annoying though. When you're having to get out, look at this, right? So I'm going to slide that all the way forward. I don't have much gap with which to extract myself from the vehicle. So here we go. I'm going to sort of pour out of it. Oh. That wasn't very elegant, was it? Now let's check out the GLB's boot. As standard, all models get an electric tailgate. And as you'll see, with 7 seats up, there really isn't that much room. You can get a couple of these kind of rucksacks in there, and that is your lot. It's not so bad if you're carrying 5 though. Look, I'll just fold these down, which is easy to do, like that and like that. Then you have 500 litres of load space underneath the load cover, which is pretty decent. You'll be able to fit 2 large suitcases and 2 smaller suitcases in there. Now, the actual boot capacity is about 10% less than a GLC. That has 550 litres, and if you click on the pop-out banner up there, you can watch my full in-depth video review of that car. But it's all right in size. It's not quite as big as something like a Skoda Kodiaq, but then if you're in the market for a Mercedes, you probably don't want a Skoda, do you? Now, there are some nice features in this boot. For instance, look, there's no load lip, so you can just slide things out. Also, you've got some nets here. There's a 12-volt socket there and a tie-down point there. You also have some strappage there and some strappage there. Hooks here for hanging bags off, but really they're not going to be particularly useful. Now, if you need to carry, say, longer items, but with 2 people either side, you can fold down that middle seat. Then you can have some planks of wood and 2 people either side. But if you need to carry lots of stuff, then you just fold down the rest of the seats. It is a bit annoying that you have to do it from inside the car. You can't do it from the boot like you can in a Tiguan All-Space. Obviously, you'll notice there's a big gap there now, but you can reduce it by sliding these seats back. go. Still a bit of a gap, but it's not too bad, and it's easy enough to just slide heavy items from the back to the front. Yeah, it's a pretty decent amount of space. Now let's talk about interior cubby spaces, and there's quite a few, so I'm going to see how long it takes me to get through them all. Let's get a timer on the screen and I'll count it in. 3, 2, 1, go. So here's your glove box. It's of average size. You've got some storage space under here, and there's 2 USB ports, and I like the way you can have the armrest half open and half closed, so you can be charging something and someone can still rest their arm on it. Underneath here, you have your cup holders, and if they look a little bit large, you press this button and then they become smaller, so you can hold an energy drink. There's room for a mobile phone in there, and you've got another USB port there. Now, all USB ports in this car are USB-C, so you might need to use an adapter. The door bins, they're huge. They can hold large bottles in the front, and they can hold large bottles here in the back. Some nettage here, which is handy, a space here, which is less handy, and another space here, which is also not that handy. So you do have 2 more USB ports there. You fold down the armrest. Look at this, you've got a couple of cup holders there for your middle seat passengers. And then if I move the seats out of the way so you can see, watch my head. You'll notice that you have some cup holders here, one with the smaller cutout, once again for an energy drink. And then here you've got USB port, and it's the same over the other side. And a space for your mobile phone. There you'll notice that it's not quite large enough for a larger mobile phone in a case. And that brings you on to 5 annoying things about this car. If you've got a roof rack fitted to the car, you cannot engage sport mode. Not with roof load, it says there. Though bizarrely, you can do that if you've got the GLB 35 model. Why is it different for the normal cars? You can get a 5-seater only model of the GLB, and because it doesn't have the mechanism for the third row of seats, its boot is 70 litres larger, which means you can fit an extra suitcase in it. The weird thing is though, that in the UK, you can only get that 5-seater model if you have the AMG line Premium, which is kind of mid-spec-ish. I don't know why that is, why you can't have it on the higher or lower spec versions. It's just odd that they decided to do that. Why don't they just offer each version as a 5-seater or a 7-seater, and then you can make your own mind up. It's a bit annoying that this central seat is actually linked to just one of the outer seats. It's the one on the left-hand side. It means that I cannot have this seat down and that up. If I, say, wanted to sit on this side of the car and have someone else there, you can only do it, look, this way around. I want choice. Do you have low back problems and need lumbar support? Well, if you want a Mercedes GLB, you absolutely have to have the AMG 35 model or the AMG line Premium Plus, both of which are quite expensive, because every other model low down the range doesn't have lumbar support, and you cannot even fit it as an option. In Europe, the normal versions of the GLB are available with optional adaptive suspension. However, in the UK, you can't get it. I don't know whether that's something to do with Brexit and they're annoyed at us, but it's just the way it is. It's not all negative though. Here's 5 good things about this car. There is a dedicated space underneath here where you can store the car's low cover, which is very handy because if you're going... It's really noisy, isn't it? If you're going into 7-seater mode, you are going to need to remove this. Each door bin has an extra little cutaway, specifically designed to hold a high-vis jacket. Your safety doesn't have to compromise your door bin storage needs. If you need proof this car is a proper SUV, then check this out. The doors extend all the way over the sills, so that bit won't get muddy, so you won't get the backs of your trousers all dirty when you get in and out. You can get the GLB fitted with Mercedes Pre-Safe Plus system. Now, if the car's then involved in an accident, it will automatically lock its brakes on, so if you're subsequently hit from behind by another car, you shouldn't suffer such bad whiplash. Oh, I've really hurt my neck. I wonder if I can claim off someone. If you have a lot of children, you're going to like this car, because look at this, you have ISOFIX angle points there and there, so you can fit 2 seats here, and it's quite roomy, so you can fit the really big rear-facing seats here. But also, there's ISOFIX on the rearmost seat. Yay! 4 children in the car at once, really young children. That's not going to be too distracting. Now let's find out what this GLB is like to drive, starting off with what it's like in town. So the first thing to note is that the high driving position really helps give you a great view forward over other cars, which is brilliant. The view out the back is okay, but you've got quite a lot of windows, so it's all right to see around, and that helps when you're parking, as does this. I love the fact that the gear selector is here on the steering column, so it's just dead easy to go between reversing and then going forward. Love that. Wish other manufacturers did it. I also like the fact that the steering's nice and light, and the turning circle is okay, which is good for if you need to go around one of those mini roundabouts If you like these stats, the turning circle is actually 11.7 metres. Now Land Rover Discovery Sport's turning circle is actually 11.6 metres, so it does beat the Mercedes there ever so slightly. The gearbox on this car though is better than in the Land Rover. This 8-speed fitted to this diesel engine is nice and smooth, it's really good at blowing the gears together, and it's not jerky either. They'll be warned, on the entry-level 200 petrol, you get a 7-speed automatic, which is a little bit jerky when you're pulling away. One thing that I can't complain about though on any model of GLB is how well it deals with bumps. So I'm going to go over this sort of potholey and cobbly area here. So this is about as bad as you're ever going to have to drive over, and it does deal with the bumps pretty well. That's comfy. You're going to find it easy to drive and relaxing to just travel and mooch around in town. What is the GLB like when you get out on the motorway? So let's just check out the acceleration getting up to motorway speed. So I'm doing 40, throwing the throttle, kick down, gauge, and it's off. Now for a diesel, it doesn't really grumble too much, and it delivers decent performance. It just motors along. What's not so good though is you do get a little bit of tyre noise and a bit of wind noise. I think part of the reason is just the shape of the body. So the tyre noise is because it's a big square shape, so it kind of echoes around in here, and the wind noise is because it's a big square shape on the outside that isn't all that aerodynamic. But it's not bad, it's just not quite as quiet as something like an Audi Q5. And if you click on the pop-out button up there, you can watch my full in-depth video review of that car. As for the economy, well, I'm getting over 40 mpg, which is pretty decent to tell you the truth. Let's see how this GLB copes with a twisty road. Now I could put it into sports mode, but because this car doesn't have adaptive dampers, there's no point. It just adds weight to the steering, which is unnecessary. Oh, right, here's the first corner. Do notice it leans a little bit because it's quite tall. Still holds on, and the steering, it's all right. Puts the car where you need it to. And if you do get a bit carried away and need to slow down, then the brakes, oh yes, they feel pretty firm without being grabby. Yes, it can cope with a twisty road, it just isn't much fun. But did you expect it to be? Of course you didn't. Finally, let's talk about the equipment levels. So the range kicks off with the Sport model, and that gets LED headlights, a reversing camera, 2 7-inch screens, voice commands, dual zone climate control, and keyless go. Next up is the AMG line version, which gets stuff like tinted rear windows and sport seats, which are part leather. Actually, it's not real leather, it's fake leather, but it feels pretty nice. Plus, some sportier looking brake calipers and a central armrest in the middle row seats. Then there's the AMG line Premium. So that gets electrically folding door mirrors, you get wireless charging for your mobile phone. There's also all-round parking sensors and an upgraded 225-watt stereo. But most importantly of all, you also get the larger infotainment screens, which for me is key. And that brings me onto the infotainment system itself, which I think is really very good. So you can operate it as a touchscreen, and it's quite easy to just whiz through the menus. You can also operate it using the pad down here or using the left pad on the steering wheel. It's intuitive, it's a crisp display, it's very, very good. The navigation's pretty decent as well. If you have this upgraded system, you also get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Another thing you get with the upgraded system is a virtual reality satellite navigation, which uses the live camera feed of the road ahead and superimposes it onto the screen with some digital arrows of it. Then there's the digital driver's display, which yet again, I really like. You can cycle through different views and have it just as you want it, get lots of different information. You can also just change the look of the screen itself to different displays. So there's a few choices. There's classic, sport, progressive, which is weird, and understated, which doesn't show that much. You can also control it using voice commands by saying, "Hey Mercedes,
how may I help you?"
And then it'll chime in. The only problem is that if you just say the word Mercedes, then it just chimes up and gets on your nerves after a while. There's also ambient lighting with a choice of 64 different colours. Let's try red, maybe not, let's go for green. All very good, and I think it's the best system in the business. Not BMW's iDrive anymore. Ooh. Next up is the AMG line Premium Plus. So that gets a panoramic glass roof and a load of extra safety kit, including automatic cruise control, so it'll keep you a safe distance from a car in front, and steer to keep you in lane as well. Then there's the AMG GLB 35, which is the sporty model. That gets an upgraded stereo, real leather on the seats, and of course a load of performance upgrades. Now, which is the best engine and trim combination of GLB? Well, I'm actually configuring my perfect choice on the carwow configurator, and I've also got a really good deal on it. If you want to see what the car is and the deal, click on the pop-out banner up there to go to carwow and check it out. So then, what's my final verdict on the new Mercedes GLB? Should you avoid it? Should you consider it? Should you shortlist it? Or should you just go right ahead and buy it? Well, I reckon you should shortlist the GLB. It really is a good, smallish SUV that feels like a proper SUV. Well done, Mercedes. Do you agree with my verdict? Let me know in the comments section. Also, please subscribe to this channel for more videos. And if you click on the deals box to the right, you can see how much you can save on a new car at CarWow. Or click on the video windows below to watch another of my videos.